The underestimated planet. In the vast expanse of the Milky Way, Earth was but a speck of dust, an insignificant blue marble spinning around an unremarkable yellow star. To the great spacefaring civilizations that dominated the galaxy, humanity was nothing more than a curiosity. A primitive species barely out of its cradle, still relying on chemical propulsion and projectile weapons. The Zarthak Empire, spanning thousands of star systems, viewed Earth with particular disdain. Their emperor, Exarvox the Merciless, saw the planet as an easy conquest, a footnote in the Empire's grand history of subjugation. Little did they know that this underestimation would be their greatest mistake. Admiral Zorn, commander of the Zarthak fleet, stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Devastator. His scaled skin shimmered under the harsh light of the command center as he gazed at the holographic display of the Sol system. Primitive savages, he sneered, his forked tongue flicking between sharp teeth. Their most advanced weapons are barely more effective than hurling rocks. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vex, nodded in agreement. Indeed, Admiral. Our scans show their military still relies heavily on projectile weapons. Kinetic energy weapons, can you imagine? Zorn let out a rasping laugh. It will be a mercy to bring them under the Empire's rule. Perhaps in a few centuries, they might evolve enough to be useful slaves. As the Zarthak plotted their invasion, they remained blissfully unaware of the activity taking place deep beneath the surface of the blue planet they so casually dismissed. Miles under the Rocky Mountains, in a top-secret facility known only as the Forge, Earth's brightest minds were working tirelessly. The cavernous underground complex hummed with activity, its walls lined with experimental weapons and cutting-edge technology that would make even the most advanced alien civilizations pause. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, head of Earth's Defense Research Division, strode purposefully through the bustling corridors. Her dark hair was tied back in a tight bun, and her eyes sparkled with determination behind her sleek glasses. She entered a secure briefing room where the highest-ranking military officials from around the world were gathered. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice firm and confident, "we've made a breakthrough." The room fell silent as all eyes turned to her. General Zhang of the Chinese military leaned forward, his weathered face etched with curiosity. "What kind of breakthrough, Doctor?" Elena tapped a few commands on her tablet, and a holographic display sprang to life in the center of the room. It showed a rifle, but unlike any the military leaders had seen before. "This," Elena said, a hint of pride in her voice, "is the XM-1 Coastmaker. It's a hybrid weapon that combines our traditional ballistic technology with reverse-engineered alien energy systems." Colonel Sarah Thompson of the U.S. Army whistled low. "It doesn't look like much." Elena smiled. "That's the point, Colonel. To the Zarthak, it will appear as nothing more than a slightly modified version of our current rifles. But in reality, it's capable of firing projectiles enhanced with a graviton field. These rounds can penetrate even the most advanced energy shields." The room erupted in excited murmurs. General Okoye of the Nigerian Armed Forces raised a hand. "And you're certain the aliens won't be able to detect this technology?" "Positive," Elena replied. "We've developed a quantum camouflage system that masks the weapon's true nature. To their sensors, it will read as a simple kinetic energy weapon." For the first time in months, hope began to blossom in the hearts of Earth's defenders. They had been preparing for this moment ever since first contact revealed the hostile intentions of the Zarthak Empire. While publicly maintaining a facade of technological inferiority, Earth had been secretly advancing by leaps and bounds. "There's more," Elena continued, her excitement building. "We've also made significant progress in stealth technology, communications, and defensive systems, but our ace in the hole is this." She brought up another hologram, this time showing a slender figure in a form-fitting suit. "This is the Phantom suit. It's designed to work in tandem with the Ghostmaker rifle. It provides near-perfect camouflage, enhanced strength and speed, and a neural interface that dramatically improves accuracy." General Zhang's eyes widened. Incredible, but who could possibly use such advanced equipment effectively? Elena's smile widened. We've been training a special forces unit in secret, the best of the best from every nation. But there's one soldier in particular who's shown exceptional promise. Her name is Lyra Kane. As if on cue, the door to the briefing room slid open, and a woman entered. She moved with fluid grace, her eyes alert and scanning the room. Lyra Kane stood at attention, her posture perfect, her presence commanding respect despite her relatively young age. "Ma'am," she said, addressing Elena. "You requested my presence?" Elena nodded. "Everyone, this is Lieutenant Lyra Kane. She's our top sniper and the primary candidate for the Phantom Suit program." The military leaders studied Lyra with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. She met their gazes unflinchingly, her resolve evident in her steady gaze. Colonel Thompson spoke up. "With all due respect, Doctor, how can one soldier, no matter how skilled or well-equipped, make a difference against an entire alien armada?" Before Elena could respond, Lyra stepped forward. "Permission to speak freely, ma'am." At Elena's nod, Lyra addressed the room. "Distinguished leaders, I understand your doubts. But throughout history, small forces have toppled empires. The Zarthak think us primitive and weak. That arrogance will be their downfall. With this technology and the element of surprise, we can strike where they least expect it. We can be the ghost in their machine, the shadow that brings down their mighty war engines." Her words hung in the air, and slowly, the doubt in the room began to give way to cautious optimism. General Okoye leaned back in his chair, a slow smile spreading across his face. "I like her," he said simply. As the meeting continued, strategies were discussed and plans were made. Outside the forge, life on Earth continued as normal. People went about their daily lives, unaware of the monumental decisions being made deep underground or the alien fleet approaching their world. In orbit around Mars, the Zarthak invasion force assembled. Hundreds of ships, from massive dreadnoughts to agile fighters, prepared for what they believed would be a swift and easy conquest. Admiral Zorn stood before a gathering of his top officers, his chest puffed out with pride. "Tomorrow," he proclaimed, "we add another primitive world to the glory of the Zarthak Empire. Let the humans tremble before our might." A cheer went up from the assembled aliens, their confidence absolute. Little did they know that on the blue planet below, humanity was preparing a welcome they would never forget. As night fell over Earth, Lyra Kane stood alone on a balcony overlooking the Rocky Mountains. She took a deep breath of the cool, crisp air, savoring what might be her last moment of peace for a long time. Her hand unconsciously went to the pocket where she kept a photo of her family, a reminder of what she was fighting for. "I won't let you down," she whispered to the stars. "Any of you." In the distance, a shooting star streaked across the sky. But Lyra knew it wasn't a star at all. The invasion had begun. The sniper's call. Dawn broke over the Rocky Mountains, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. But the beauty of the sunrise was marred by the ominous shapes descending from the heavens. The Zarthak invasion fleet had arrived, their massive ships casting long shadows over the landscape below. Lyra Kane stood at attention in the command center of the forge, her eyes fixed on the massive screens displaying the alien armada. She was already dressed in the Phantom Suit, its smooth, dark surface seeming to absorb the light around her. In her hands, she held the XM-1 Coastmaker, the weight of humanity's hopes resting on this advanced piece of technology. Dr. Elena Rodriguez approached, her face a mask of determination. "Lieutenant Kane, are you ready?" Lyra nodded, her voice steady. "Born ready, ma'am." Elena placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "Remember your training. The suit's neural interface will enhance your natural abilities, but it's your skill and instinct that will make the difference. Good luck, and Godspeed." As Lyra made her way to the deployment zone, alarms blared throughout the facility. The first wave of Zarthak drop pods had breached Earth's atmosphere, heading for major cities across the globe. The invasion had begun in earnest. Lyra was whisked away in a hypersonic transport, her destination a strategic vantage point in the Colorado Rockies. As the transport streaked across the sky, she could see the chaos unfolding below. Zarthak walkers, towering mechanical beasts, stomped through city streets, their energy weapons laying waste to everything in their path. The transport touched down on a remote mountain peak, and Lyra disembarked. As soon as her feet hit the ground, the phantom suit's camouflage activated, rendering her nearly invisible against the rocky terrain. "Command, this is Ghost One," she spoke into her comm. "I'm in position." "Acknowledged, Ghost One," came the reply. "Priority target approaching your sector. Massive walker, designation Omega-7. It's leading the assault on Denver. Take it out, and you'll throw their entire offensive into disarray." Lyra moved swiftly across the mountainside, her enhanced vision zooming in on the distant city. She could see the walker in question, a behemoth easily 20 stories tall, its insectoid legs crushing buildings with each step. Energy beams lanced out from its weapon ports, decimating Earth's conventional military forces. Finding a suitable position, Lyra went prone, the Ghostmaker rifle settling naturally against her shoulder. She took a deep breath, centering herself as she had done countless times in training. The neural interface of the phantom suit connected with the rifle systems, feeding targeting data directly into her mind. Through the advanced scope, she could see the walker's pilot, a Zarthak officer gesturing arrogantly as he directed the assault. Lyra's finger tensed on the trigger. "For Earth," she whispered and squeezed. The Ghostmaker lived up to its name. There was no muzzle flash, no sonic boom. The hypersonic, graviton-enhanced round left the barrel at a velocity that defied conventional physics. In the blink of an eye, it crossed the miles between Lyra and her target. The Zarthak walker's shields, designed to repel energy weapons and conventional projectiles, might as well have been tissue paper. The round passed through them without slowing, punctured the armored cockpit, and found its mark in the alien pilot's head. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the massive walker stumbled, its legs flailing as it lost coordination. It toppled, crashing into a row of buildings and crushing several smaller alien vehicles beneath its bulk. Chaos erupted among the Zarthak forces. Their seemingly invincible war machine had fallen, and they couldn't understand how or why. Lyra allowed herself a small smile before acquiring her next target. Over the next hour, Lyra became a phantom of death, striking from impossible distances with unerring accuracy. Alien commanders fell one by one, their shields and armor useless against the advanced human weapon. With each shot, the Zarthak offensive lost more momentum, confusion spreading through their ranks like a virus. Back on the Devastator, Admiral Zorn raged at his subordinates. "How is this possible?" he roared, his scales flushing deep purple in anger. "They're primitives. Their weapons are obsolete." Sub-Commander Vex cowered before his superior's wrath. We don't know, Admiral. Our sensors can't detect the weapon being used. It appears to be some form of advanced kinetic projectile, but it's like nothing we've ever encountered." Zorn's eyes narrowed. "It doesn't matter. We are the Zarthak Empire. We do not fail. Launch the Harvester. Let's see how their mystery weapon fares against that." On Earth, Lyra was in constant motion, never staying in one place for more than a few minutes. The phantom suit kept her hidden from Zarthak sensors, allowing her to move freely across the battlefield. But as she prepared for another shot, a shadow fell over the land. Looking up, Lyra's breath caught in her throat. A massive ship, easily dwarfing the other Zarthak vessels, was descending through the atmosphere. Its hull bristled with weapons, and a sinister glow emanated from its underside. "Command, this is Ghost One," Lyra reported, her voice tense. "We've got a new player on the field. What the hell is that thing?" There was a moment of silence before Elena's voice came through, tight with concern. "That's the Harvester, Lieutenant. It's the Zarthak's planet killer. If it activates its main weapon, It could devastate the entire continent. Lyra's mind raced. The Ghostmaker was an incredible weapon, but against something that size, it would be like trying to take down an elephant with a pinprick. She needed a new plan, and fast. "Dr. Rodriguez," Lyra said, an idea forming. "The phantom suit's camouflage. Would it work against the harvester sensors?" There was a pause as Elena considered. "Theoretically, yes. But Lyra, what are you thinking?" Lyra's eyes were fixed on the massive ship, a determined glint in her eye. "I'm thinking it's time to take the fight to them. If I can get aboard that thing, I might be able to sabotage it from the inside." "That's suicide," Elena protested. "Maybe," Lyra admitted. "But if that thing activates its main weapon, we're all dead anyway. I have to try." There was a long silence on the comm. Finally, Elena's voice came through, filled with reluctant acceptance. "All right, Lieutenant, but how do you plan on getting up there?" Lyra's gaze fell on a nearby Zarthak dropship, its alien crew distracted by the chaos of the battle. A grim smile spread across her face. "I think I just found my ride." Moving with enhanced speed granted by the phantom suit, Lyra sprinted towards the dropship. The alien crew never saw her coming. With precise, lethal efficiency, she neutralized them and commandeered the vessel. As she familiarized herself with the alien controls, Lyra took a deep breath. "Command, this is Ghost One. I'm Oscar Mike to the Harvester. If this works, it could turn the tide of the entire invasion." "Understood, Ghost One," Elena replied, her voice thick with emotion. "Good luck, and come back safe." As the dropship ascended towards the looming bulk of the Harvester, Lyra allowed herself one last look at the Earth below. The blue and green planet, her home, seemed so fragile from up here. She tightened her grip on the Ghostmaker. "Don't worry," she whispered. "I'm not done fighting yet." The dropship approached the Harvester's docking bay, and Lyra steeled herself for what was to come. She was about to enter the belly of the beast, armed with nothing but her rifle, her suit, and her indomitable human spirit. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and Lyra Kane was determined to show the Zarthak Empire why it was a mistake to underestimate humanity. Turning the tide, the Zarthak Harvester loomed before Lyra, a colossal monument to alien technology and destructive power. As her stolen dropship approached the docking bay, Lyra's heart raced. The phantom suit's systems were working overtime to regulate her vitals and keep her calm. "Ghost One, this is command." Dr. Rodriguez's voice crackled through the comm. "We're tracking your approach. Remember, the phantom suit's camouflage should keep you hidden, but it's not infallible. Be careful." "Roger that, command," Lyra replied, her voice steady despite the tension. "I'm going radio silent now. Wish me luck." As the dropship glided into the cavernous docking bay, Lyra marveled at the sheer scale of the alien vessel. Hundreds of smaller craft were docked in neat rows, while Zarthak troops and workers scurried about like insects in a hive. The moment the ship touched down, Lyra activated her suit's camouflage and slipped out, becoming a ghost among the alien machinery. Moving with calculated precision, Lyra made her way deeper into the Harvester. Her enhanced senses, coupled with the suit's advanced sensors, allowed her to navigate the labyrinthine corridors while avoiding detection. The ship's interior was a marvel of biomechanical engineering, with pulsing organic components seamlessly integrated with cold, hard metal. As she progressed, Lyra couldn't help but overhear snippets of Zarthak communication. Their harsh, clicking language was automatically translated by her suit's systems. Unprecedented resistance. Commander Zextor killed by unknown weapon. Prepare the Harvester's main cannon. The last bit of information sent a chill down Lyra's spine. She needed to move faster. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the tide of battle was slowly turning. Inspired by Lyra's initial success, other human special forces equipped with reverse-engineered alien tech had joined the fray. Cities that had been on the brink of falling now saw fierce resistance, with humans using their intimate knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver the Zarthak forces. In New York, a squad of soldiers using powered exoskeletons managed to bring down a Zarthak walker by targeting its joints with concentrated EMP blasts. In Tokyo, a team of hackers broke through alien firewalls, temporarily disabling a fleet of attack drones. And in Lagos, local militia armed with makeshift energy weapons held off a Zarthak battalion, buying time for civilians to evacuate. These small victories began to add up, creating a ripple effect across the global battlefield. The Zarthak, who had expected an easy conquest, found themselves bogged down in grueling urban combat against an enemy that refused to give up. Admiral Zorn, watching the battle unfold from the bridge of the Devastator, was beside himself with rage. Impossible, he roared, smashing a clawed fist against a control panel. How are these primitives resisting us? Sub-Commander Vex approached cautiously, his scales pale with fear. Admiral, we've received word from the ground forces. The humans, they're using technology far beyond what our intelligence suggested. Some of it seems familiar. Zorn's eyes narrowed dangerously. Familiar how? Sir, Vex hesitated. Some of our commanders report being attacked with weapons that bear similarities to our own designs. It's as if they've been studying our technology. For a moment, Zorn was silent, his mind racing. Then, a terrible realization dawned on him. The reconnaissance probes we sent years ago, the ones that mysteriously disappeared. Could they have? He didn't finish the thought. Instead, he turned to his communications officer. Contact the Harvester. Tell them to charge the main cannon immediately. We'll reduce this miserable planet to ash and be done with it. Back aboard the Harvester, Lyra had finally reached her destination, the ship's central power core. The massive chamber hummed with energy, arcs of alien power dancing between colossal pillars. At the center stood a pulsating orb of pure energy, so bright it was almost painful to look at directly. Lyra knew she had to act fast. She raised the Ghostmaker, its targeting systems interfacing with her neural implants, to calculate the perfect shot. But just as she was about to pull the trigger, an alarm blared throughout the ship. A booming voice echoed through the chamber in the Zarthak language. Lyra's translator kicked in. All personnel, prepare for main cannon firing sequence. Planetary destruction imminent. No, Lyra whispered, her resolve hardening. Not on my watch. She took aim at the power core and fired. The graviton-enhanced round pierced the energy field surrounding the core, causing a cascade of reactions. Alarms blared even louder as the ship's systems went haywire. Lyra didn't wait to see the full effect of her shot. She turned and ran, her enhanced speed carrying her through the chaos erupting around her. Zarthak troops scrambled in all directions, trying to contain the damage, but it was too late. As Lyra raced back to the docking bay, the ship began to list to one side. Emergency force fields flickered and failed, and the sound of tearing metal echoed through the corridors. She reached the bay just in time to see her stolen dropship crushed by a falling support beam. Well, she muttered, time for Plan B. Without hesitation, Lyra sprinted towards the edge of the docking bay. The Harvester was now rapidly descending through Earth's atmosphere, trailing fire and debris. As the ground rushed up to meet them, Lyra took a deep breath and leaped out into open air. The Phantom suit's systems kicked into overdrive, a previously hidden feature activating. Lyra felt a jolt as a pair of sleek, metallic wings extended from the suit's back. She was gliding, the suit's eye assisting her as she navigated the treacherous air currents created by the falling Harvester. From her vantage point, Lyra watched as the massive alien ship crashed into the empty plains of the Midwest, the impact sending shockwaves for miles. The destruction of the Harvester sent a clear message to the Zarthak fleet. Earth was not the easy target they had imagined. As Lyra guided her flight towards the nearest friendly base, she activated her comm. Command, this is Ghost One. Mission accomplished. The harvester is down. I repeat, the harvester is down. There was a moment of stunned silence before Alina's voice came through, filled with jubilation and relief. Ghost 1. Lyra, you magnificent bastard. You did it. Return to base immediately. The tide is turning. Indeed, across the globe, news of the harvester's destruction spread like wildfire. Human forces, emboldened by this incredible victory, redoubled their efforts. The Zarthak, their greatest weapon destroyed, and their invasion plans in shambles, began to falter. Admiral Zorn, watching the harvester's destruction from the Devastator, felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. For the first time, he considered the unthinkable. Could the mighty Zarthak Empire actually lose this war? As Lyra touched down at a forward operating base, she was greeted by cheering soldiers and civilians. But even as she allowed herself a moment of triumph, she knew the war was far from over. The Zarthak still had a massive fleet in orbit, and they would not take this defeat lightly. Lyra checked her Ghostmaker rifle, ensuring it was still operational after the chaotic escape from the harvester. She had a feeling she'd be needing it again soon. The battle for Earth had entered a new phase, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. As night fell over the battlefield, both sides regrouped and prepared for what was to come. The Zarthak Empire had underestimated humanity for the last time. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, Earth could savor its first major victory in the war for survival. The final assault. The destruction of the harvester had sent shockwaves through the Zarthak Empire. What was supposed to be a swift conquest had turned into a grueling war of attrition. As dawn broke over a battered but defiant Earth, both sides prepared for what would surely be the decisive battle of the conflict. Aboard the Devastator, Admiral Zorn paced furiously. His once pristine command center was now a chaotic hub of frantic activity as subordinates scrambled to salvage their invasion plans. The Admiral's scales had taken on a sickly pallor, a physical manifestation of his growing desperation. "My lord," Sub-Commander Vex approached cautiously. "We've received a transmission from the homeworld. The Emperor, he's coming personally to oversee the final assault." Zorn froze, his blood running cold. Emperor Karvox was not known for his forgiveness of failure. The Admiral knew that his life now hinged on achieving victory, no matter the cost. "Prepare all remaining forces," Zorn ordered, his voice hoarse. "We end this today, or we die trying." Meanwhile, in the underground command center of the Forge, Earth's leaders gathered to plan their defense. Holograms flickered, showing the positions of both human and alien forces across the globe. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center, her usual lab coat replaced by a military uniform. "The good news," she began, addressing the assembled generals and world leaders, "is that we've managed to reverse engineer more of the Zarthak technology. Thanks to Lieutenant Kane's data retrieval from the harvester, we now have a better understanding of their shield frequencies and communication protocols." General Zhang leaned forward, his weathered face etched with concern. "And the bad news?" Elena's expression grew grim. "Our long-range sensors have detected a massive surge of Zarthak reinforcements entering the solar system, led by what appears to be their Emperor's personal battleship." A hush fell over the room. Colonel Thompson broke the silence, her voice steady but tense. "So this is it, their final push." "Indeed." Elena nodded. "But we're not out of the fight yet. Lieutenant Kane." All eyes turned to Lyra, who stood at attention near the back of the room. She stepped forward, her phantom suit gleaming under the harsh lights of the command center. The destruction of the harvester was a significant blow to the Zarthak. Lyra began, her voice calm and assured. "But more importantly, it showed us that they're not invincible. Their technology might be advanced, but it's not infallible. And now, thanks to Dr. Rodriguez and her team, we have the means to fight them on more equal footing." She activated a hologram, showing a new set of weaponry and equipment. "These are the fruits of our labor. Adaptive shield generators, gravity manipulation devices, and improved versions of the Ghostmaker rifle. With these, we can turn their own technological advantages against them. General Okoi nodded approvingly. Impressive. But how do we deploy these effectively against their full invasion force? Lyra's eyes glinted with determination. We give them exactly what they're expecting. A primitive, disorganized resistance. And when they least expect it, we show them what humanity is truly capable of. As the leaders discussed strategy, Lyra's mind wandered to the coming battle. She knew that despite their technological leaps, humanity was still outnumbered and outgunned. Victory would require not just advanced weapons, but the ingenuity, courage, and sheer determination that had defined her species throughout history. Hours later, as the sun reached its zenith, the final assault began. The sky darkened as thousands of Zarthak ships entered Earth's atmosphere. At their center, a colossal vessel that dwarfed even the fallen Harvester, Emperor Xarvox's personal battleship, the Eternal Dominion. Across the globe, human forces engaged the invaders. But unlike before, there was a method to their apparent madness. Guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run strikes, and carefully orchestrated retreats kept the Zarthak off balance and drew them into prepared killing zones. In the skies over what was once New York City, Lyra piloted a hybrid fighter, a fusion of human and Zarthak technology. She led a squadron of Earth's best pilots, darting between alien cruisers with impossible agility. The Zarthak, expecting to face primitive jet fighters, were instead met with craft that could match their own in speed and firepower. "Ghost Squadron, form up on me," Lyra commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "We're punching a hole through their fleet. Our target is the Eternal Dominion." As her squadron acknowledged, Lyra pushed her fighter into a steep climb. They soared above the main battle, the Earth growing small beneath them. Ahead loomed the massive form of the Emperor's ship, its hull bristling with weapon emplacements. "This is it, people," Lyra said, her grip tightening on the controls. "For Earth." With that, Ghost Squadron dived, streaking towards the Eternal Dominion like avenging comets. Zarthak fighters scrambled to intercept them, but Lyra and her team were ready. They weaved through the enemy formation, their hybrid weapons tearing through alien shields with ease. As they neared the massive battleship, Lyra spotted their objective, a vulnerable spot in the ship's energy grid, identified by Elena's analysis of the Harvester's data. If they could strike it precisely, they might be able to disable the entire vessel. "Ghost 2, Ghost 3, cover me," Lyra ordered. "I'm making the run." She pushed her fighter to its limits, corkscrewing through a hail of enemy fire. Alarms blared in her cockpit as her shields took hit after hit, but Lyra remained focused. The target grew larger in her sights, and she felt time slow down as she lined up her shot. In that moment, as her finger tightened on the trigger, Lyra thought of everything and everyone she was fighting for. The family she'd left behind, the comrades who'd fallen, the planet that had nurtured humanity for millennia. With a silent prayer, she fired. The hybrid missile streaked towards the Eternal Dominion, carrying with it the hopes of an entire world. It struck true, burrowing into the ship's vulnerable spot before detonating. For a heartbeat, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like a dam finally giving way, the battleship's energy grid collapsed. Massive explosions rippled across the Eternal Dominion's surface as systems overloaded and failed. The once mighty vessel began to list, its engines sputtering and dying. Lyra allowed herself a moment of elation, but she knew the battle was far from over. "Ghost Squadron, regroup," she commanded. "We're not done yet." As they turned back towards the main battle, Lyra caught sight of the Earth below. From up here, there were no borders, no divisions, just a beautiful blue marble hanging in the void of space. It was a reminder of what they were fighting for and why they could never give up. The final phase of the battle for Earth had begun, and with it, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. But for the first time since the invasion began, there was a real sense that victory might be within reach. The Zarthak had come expecting to find a primitive, helpless world. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, and Lyra Kane was determined to show them the full might of human resilience and ingenuity. Humanity triumphant. The Eternal Dominion, once the pride of the Zarthak fleet, now hung in low Earth orbit like a wounded beast. Its destruction had sent shockwaves through the invading forces, shattering their morale and disrupting their carefully laid plans. But the war was far from over. Emperor Tarvox, his scaled face contorted with rage, stood amidst the chaos of his failing flagship's bridge. "I will not be defeated by these primates," he roared, his voice causing even the bravest Zarthak warriors to flinch. With a gesture, he activated the ship's emergency protocols. "If we cannot have this world, then no one shall." A massive energy signature began to build within the dying vessel, detectable even by Earth's sensors. Back at the forge, alarms blared as Dr. Elena Rodriguez analyzed the incoming data. Her face paled as she realized the implications. "They're overloading their core," she announced to the assembled leaders. "If it detonates in low orbit, the explosion could render the entire planet uninhabitable." General Zhang's weathered face hardened. "Can we shoot it down?" Elena shook her head. "Not in time. And even if we could, the explosion would still be catastrophic. Then we need to get up there and stop it from the inside." Lyra's voice crackled through the comm. Her fighter, battered but still functional, was already moving towards the Eternal Dominion. "Lyra, no," Elena protested. "It's too dangerous. We need you here to..." "To what?" Lyra interrupted, her voice calm but firm. "Watch our world burn. This is what I was trained for, what the Phantom suit was designed for. I'm going in." There was a moment of tense silence before Colonel Thompson spoke up. "She's right. It's our only shot." Elena closed her eyes, taking a deep breath before responding. "All right, Lyra, but you're not going alone. I'm sending you all the data we have on Zarthak ship layouts, and Ghost Squadron will cover your approach." "Understood," Lyra replied. "It's been an honor serving with you all. Ghost One, out." As Lyra's fighter streaked towards the failing Eternal Dominion, the rest of Ghost Squadron fell into formation around her. They dodged debris and sporadic fire from the few operational weapon systems left on the massive ship. "Ghost Squadron, listen up," Lyra commanded. "I need you to cause as much havoc as possible. Draw their attention while I find a way inside." With acknowledgments from her team, Lyra guided her craft towards a damaged section of the hull. Using the Phantom suit's enhanced sensors, she located a breach just large enough for her to slip through. With a silent prayer, she ejected from her fighter moments before it crashed into the ship's surface, using the explosion as cover for her infiltration. Inside the Eternal Dominion, chaos reigned. Alarms blared, emergency lighting cast eerie shadows, and panicked Zarthak crew members rushed about in disarray. Lyra moved like a ghost through the corridors, her suit's camouflage keeping her hidden as she made her way towards the ship's core. As she neared her destination, Lyra encountered heavier resistance. Elite Zarthak guards, their armor gleaming even in the dim emergency lighting, patrolled the areas around the core. But they were no match for Lyra's enhanced reflexes and the deadly precision of her Ghostmaker rifle. Finally, she reached the massive doors leading to the core chamber. As they slid open, Lyra found herself face to face with Emperor Xarvox himself, surrounded by his personal guard. "So," the Emperor hissed, his voice dripping with malice, "the primitive reveals herself at last." Lyra stood her ground, Ghostmaker at the ready. "It's over, Xarvox. Call off the self-destruct sequence." The Emperor laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Over? You fool. Even now, you fail to grasp the true scope of your insignificance. The Zarthak Empire spans galaxies. This defeat, if it can even be called that, is but a minor setback." "Maybe," Lyra conceded, her eyes never leaving the Emperor. But it's a setback that will echo across those galaxies. The story of how a primitive world stood up to your mighty empire and won. Xarvox's eyes narrowed. Then I shall ensure that story is never told. With blinding speed, he drew an energy weapon and fired. But Lyra was ready. The Phantom Suit's predictive systems had anticipated the attack, and she was already moving. She rolled to the side, returning fire with the Ghostmaker. The Emperor's personal shields flared as they struggled to deflect the advanced projectiles. What followed was a battle that would be remembered in human history for generations to come. Lyra Kane, the best Earth had to offer, against Emperor Xarvox, the pinnacle of Zarthak evolution. They clashed in a fury of advanced weaponry and inhuman speed, their combat taking them throughout the core chamber. As they fought, Lyra's mind raced, looking for a way to stop the overload. Then she saw it, a weakness in the core's containment field, similar to the one she had exploited on the Harvester. If she could hit it just right. Dodging another of Xarvox's attacks, Lyra took aim. Time seemed to slow as she focused. Every lesson, every hour of training, every moment of her life leading to this single shot. She pulled the trigger. The graviton-enhanced round struck the core's weak point with pinpoint accuracy. There was a moment of absolute silence, then a deafening roar as the overload was forcibly vented into space. The Eternal Dominion shuddered, but held together. Emperor Xarvox stared in disbelief as his plans literally went up in smoke. "Impossible," he whispered. Lyra stood tall, Ghostmaker trained on the Emperor. "No, not impossible. Just human." In that moment, throughout the ship and across the battlefield beyond, the tide decisively turned. The Zarthak, seeing their Emperor defeated and their ultimate weapon neutralized, began to retreat. Ships flowed into hyperspace, leaving behind their ground forces to surrender to Earth's armies. As the last of the invasion fleet disappeared from Earth's skies, a cheer went up from every corner of the globe. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. In the days that followed, the world began the long process of rebuilding. But it was a world forever changed. The reverse-engineered Zarthak technology accelerated human advancement by centuries. More importantly, Earth now stood as a recognized power in the galaxy, no longer an isolated world, but a force to be reckoned with. Lyra Kane, hailed as the hero of the war, stood atop the rebuilt United Nations headquarters in New York, looking out over a city that bore the scars of battle but pulsed with renewed life and purpose. Dr. Elena Rodriguez joined her, a proud smile on her face. "So," Elena said, "what's next for the famous Ghost One?" Lyra chuckled, shaking her head. "Honestly, I could use a vacation, but something tells me our work is just beginning." Elena nodded, her expression turning serious. "You're right. The galaxy's a big place, and not everyone out there is going to be happy about Earth's new status. We'll need people like you to help navigate this new frontier." Lyra's gaze turned to the stars, now visible in the darkening sky. Once they had seemed so distant, so unreachable. Now they represented possibility, adventure, and yes, potential threats. But whatever lay beyond, Lyra knew one thing for certain: humanity was ready. "Well then," she said, a determined smile spreading across her face, "I guess we better get to work." As night fell over a changed Earth, its people looked to the future with hope and determination. The Zarthak had come expecting to find a primitive world ripe for conquest. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant, igniting the indomitable spirit of humanity. And now, that spirit was ready to take its place among the stars. The end, or perhaps just the beginning.